Hello, welcome to Fiberchats. My name is Irina Shar, and my guest today is Kitey from the Yarn Whisperer.
Hi, Irina, how are you?
Good, I'm so glad to have you here. Um, so I've sort of like browsed through your Instagram,
Okay.
maybe like very, you know, I spent some time there over the past few months. Uh, and I've heard one thing that you used to be a teacher.
Yeah.
What did you used to teach?
Okay. So I was a primary school teacher, so elementary for my US friends, and yeah, I did that for almost 30 years. I started teaching in 1992, so way back when. I'm old, and
Aren't we all?
and yeah, well, and yeah, I moved to the UK, started teaching here, and I've taught here a bit in Australia because I grew up in Australia. Um, a little bit. My last couple of years of teaching, I was in the Middle East, in Abu Dhabi. Um, and I've done some work in Bangkok and various other places like that. So yeah, all over the place, but mostly primary subjects. I was art trained, but I never really taught art as a coordinator or manager because it was always you had to go and work in whatever job was there. So if
Right.
I went into a school, because I was male, generally that would mean you're doing ICT or you're doing science or technology, and that was kind of the thing. So yeah, that's what I did. And I've done a bit of internet work, working as a consultant in education, and a little bit of work as a literacy sort of coordinator, consultant type person, um, training teachers, training teaching assistants. So yeah, a big sort of mixed bag of stuff, but mostly primary, mostly
So how
primary.
do you go from that to dyeing yarn?
Okay, that's a really, really good question. There's lots of transferable skills. So obviously, the obvious ones is being able to talk to people. So in terms of sales pad art, that's never been a particular problem for me. But for the actual dyeing yarn part, as I said, I was art trained. So at college, a lot of my course was around art-based stuff, and colour's always been really important. I did a little bit of work way back. It was probably in like the 90s. We were dyeing with natural sort of organic products like onion skins and eucalyptus leaves and things like that. Um, and so that tweaked my interest, but it wasn't kind of till probably 2000 and I guess it was around 2014, I suppose, when I started doing crochet. Um, and as part of that journey, became obsessed with hand dyed yarn and wanted to do it. And obviously the color bit. And then to sort of, I can happily talk about it for hours, but like the sort of most recent bit was with the pandemic last year. My supply teaching work, which is what I was doing when I came back from the Middle East in London, that dried up. And my partner, who's now my husband, said, right, you're not going back to school, make the yarn thing happen. So I was like, okay. So that's where
Well,
we are.
thank you to the partner who is now a husband.
Yeah, he's
Congratulations.
fabulous. He's really supportive, completely fabulous. I have to say that, but yeah. So
Um, so you started crocheting, like why crochet? Why did you pick crochet?
I think it's a funny one, that one, because I had some crochet hooks from my birth mother. So I was adopted. I found my birth mother in 2000. Um, and she was with us for 7 years. We lost her in 2007. But at that time, I inherited the crochet hooks and some tapestries. She did cross stitch and crochet basically. So I inherited the crochet hooks, and they'd been sitting there talking to me, sort of willing me to pick them up. I'd done cross stitch for a number of years before that. So it was funny how there was a kind of connection between us
Right.
even though we hadn't met. Um, and so that craft side was part of me anyway. I think it's in my DNA. So I picked the crochet hook up, and it was basically over it's such a sad story because it was over a Christmas where um, I split up with my then wife, um, and I was meant to have my son for Christmas. I didn't have him that particular Christmas because he wanted to spend time with his cousins, which I was happy to support. But it meant that I basically hadn't gone away to the family Christmas that I was meant to be going to because I had my son. And then I had Christmas by myself. So I was kind of like, okay, I've got 2 days or whatever, 4 days, eat what I want, watch whatever I want on television, make cocktails, and I'll teach myself to crochet. And I did.
So
That's kind of
how did you do it by yourself? Like you didn't take a class. Did you just look on YouTube or you had a book? Like,
YouTube's amazing. It's
oh,
got
it is.
everything. So,
Absolutely.
and it's got all the things. So, yeah, I just picked up a couple of. There was probably 3 or 4 different people I looked at. Some people I found went too quick for me, especially at the beginning. I eventually sort of lucked on somebody who explained it really clearly at the time for me. They're probably too slow for me now, but it was, at the
Right.
right time. So it's just a case of searching through and finding something that works for you. So yeah, I picked it up and kind of ran with that, and then started with granny squares because everybody does, and ended up with a queen size blanket eventually. I mean, it took maybe 2 or 3 years, but eventually a queen size blanket came out of that one.
And then you tried knitting as well, right? At some point.
Yeah, knitting. I started knitting last year. So I tried in 2019. And it was the devil's work. I didn't understand 2 sticks. It was like, I've got these chopsticks and I don't know how to use them. That it doesn't
Right.
feel natural. And there was kind of I guess it was inside me really, a kind of feeling that I couldn't do it. I wasn't welcome to do it. I shouldn't do it. But then it was just kind of getting over that for myself and just going, you know what, I want to do it. So I'm just going to get on with it. And I have some very supportive customers, essentially. They're people I've met through the Yarn Whisperer, who were willing me on and saying, you can do this. If we can do it, you can do it. Just
Right.
do it. Shut up talking about it and just get on with it, because I
Right.
kept saying, oh no, it's really hard, I don't get it.
Well, it's funny because I started with knitting and then I decided to learn how to crochet. And I had the same exact thing because it was like so easy, so organic for me to knit, but like crocheting seemed so strange.
Yeah.
So it's like it just takes time to like adjust to the new craft, I think.
I think that's it. It's the new tools, and for me, it's not about the tools actually. When I really broke it down, because as a teacher, I kind of break things down into what the steps I need to kind of go through to get there for
Right.
myself. And part of that for me was just I've just got to learn how to hold the yarn the way I hold the yarn,
Right.
and part of the gatekeeping thing that I mentioned before was about there's such a feeling that you have to do things a certain way, especially if you watch YouTube or whatever, that this is the way you do it and here's the expert and they're telling you what to do. And actually for me, it's like, well, I'm knitting, but I hold the yarn the way I hold the yarn. And if that's wrong, I don't actually care. Like I literally don't actually care because it's working. I managed to knit the first thing I ever knit was Max the Knitter, the Snuggly's Real cowl, because I thought a cowl was nice and simple. I could kind of fairly straight. I was only although as I worked it out, there was sort of internal knitting and it was all a bit confusing. But it was a great learning curve. And yeah, I did it the way I do it. And if that works, so that's what I'm
So
sticking with.
I want to talk about cowls for a second. So you have this product that you sell that it's like a shawl ring or some sort of
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
shawl
Yep.
device.
Yeah, yeah.
That I'm actually like super tempted to get it just as a bracelet because I really love the way it
Well,
looks.
some people have actually got them and using them as bracelets, in
Right.
fact. But yeah, yeah.
But like, how did you come up with that thing? Because I haven't seen anybody use it for shawls.
Okay, this was a complete accident, if I'm honest. I was cleaning out a cupboard, and I don't know if I've got it here somewhere. I'm not going to be able to find it. Somebody made me a paracord bracelet like this in the past, and it just occurred to me that, like, you know, you buy shawl cuffs and things like that. Well, I could do that out of paracord, like,
Right.
to make it. So because I was kind of working on that whole thing in my business around, okay, I'm making yarn, but I also want to kind of think about accessories and things like that, because, you know, that's just an extra bit that I can offer my customers. I thought, well, I'll have a little play and see what I can come up with. And this was the result. And then I now have them in a number of different colors. And I've just launched a new style as well, which has kind of like daisy chain. It looks like flowers.
Yeah, I saw that.
And yeah, they've just been a bit of fun. Like, I guess it's that bit of me that gets really bored of having one project on the go. I'm terrible. I think recently I had 6 whips on the go. I've got that down to 4. I finished 2 knitting ones recently. But I've always got like a handful of whips, because it's kind of like, if I'm on Zoom, I can do one thing, but actually on some Zoom calls, I need to count. So I can't do that. I have to do this one. And so it's, yeah. And then this sort of stuff I can do in front of the telly. I can do while I'm on a Zoom tutorial or something. So my hands have to be busy. I think that's I'm my own worst enemy, but my hands have to be busy. So yeah, these came out of that.
So let's talk a little bit about yarn.
Go.
How many colors did you start with? Do you remember your first color that you tried?
I do. I started with 4. Was it 4, 6? 4. The first color ever, I actually still have some. I dye this up every so often. This is padron peppers. So the Yarn Whisperer started, the Instagram handle started in about 2018, I think. And it was really just a place to put my sort of crochet spam, because my friends on Instagram were getting fed up with my being fed up with it. So I just kind of put all of the yarn stuff over there. And then we were on a holiday in Sitges in Spain. And so that was in 2019 in the summer. I'd just come back from the Middle East, and I was kind of like, do I want to teach? Or like, okay, I'll do some supply teaching, but I don't really necessarily want to do that forever. And we were literally in a bar drinking sangria and eating padron peppers, hence the first color. And the conversation got round to, what am I going to do? And I was thinking about, well, I'd like to do yarn dyeing. And Carl said to me, okay, what colors? And I went, well, the padron peppers, I could make that as yarn. And then my second color was white sangria, funnily enough. So it was literally that meal in Spain that kind of launched it. And then it just kind of grew. Like I found a couple of, when I came back from that holiday, I spent probably the next 4 months dyeing and experimenting. You know, I got some acid dyes in, and some acid and some yarn bases that I kind of liked, and kind of went from there. And
are a lot of your colors influenced by drinks and food? Where do you draw inspiration?
Seen. Thank you. Yeah, no, absolutely. I do say I'm inspired by food and nature, and the universe. So there are a number of, or there certainly were a number of cocktails at the beginning. I used to dye blood orange mojito as a colorway. I don't dye that so often anymore. It's on like dye to order, but I don't get a lot of that anymore. I do actually have a Christmas Advent this year, which it's heavily influenced by food and cocktails. So I actually totally felt and I kind of, most of my sort of most recent colors have been around tarot cards, and that started from the Mystic 8 Ball. So it's kind of just fantasy colors almost, or colors that come to mind when um, I pull a certain card or whatever.
Right.
Um,
How do you think of yourself? Like how did you change from that first color to now? Like what did you learn in that time that you've been doing it?
um, that's such a good question. I think I've I've discovered about myself that I like to dye quite bold colors. I don't do a lot of pastels, although I did have a customer recently say to me that I should do more because I did one and they really liked it. So I was kind of like, okay, maybe I should do that more often. Um, I do have a I do like the kind of autumn end of the spectrum, I suppose. But then saying that, I actually really like blue, and it's really difficult to choose a color.
Right.
Orange is probably my favorite, but it's in a list of about 7 colors, right? That I kind of really like because I like all the colors, and rainbow is a color. Um, and yeah, so I just kind of I think I've learnt how to, I guess, play and be confident in what I'm doing because it generally works. Even if it's not a colorway that I might want to knit or crochet with myself,
Right.
it can usually find its place. It can find customers that want it, or um, yeah. And I've taken on more custom orders, I suppose, recently,
Okay.
which are terrifying on one hand because obviously there's a lot of pressure on it if the color doesn't come out right or whatever, um, but kind of exciting when it all goes to plan and it works and people like it.
Do you feel like when you do custom color, do you feel like you get to explore things that you wouldn't otherwise?
Yeah, to some extent, because it takes me out of my comfort zone into a color that I might not want to do or have thought of doing.
Right.
um, but I still have my kind of twist on it, if that makes sense. um, I feel like a recent one I've done, I can't show it to you. It's packed up. It's heading off to Australia. Was a kind of the brief was Wedgwood blue. That was it. And I said to the customer, I'm really happy to do it, but I don't really dye colors that are just like one tone. There's
Right.
not just one note, especially with hand dyed. There's always going to be areas of sort of tints and tones throughout that, even if you don't add black. Um, there's always going to be sort of darker bits, lighter bits. There's going to be parts where the yarn doesn't necessarily take the dye as much. There's going to be parts, if you're mixing colors to make a color, um, you're going to have parts of the sort of original colors separated out sometimes in within that.
Right.
Um, so it's about, for me, with the customer, it's about setting expectations and making sure that they're really clear on what they're going to get. And I take photos of the process and I show them photos in the dye pans, photos once it's done. And then they've got right of refusal, and I'll find a place to sell it elsewhere if necessary. But
Have that ever
um,
happened?
no, no. Funnily enough, everybody tends to like it. Apart from, I had one customer. I did a custom. I have a big hank I do, which is like you can see one right over in the corner here. 500 gram big hanks, big investment putting one of them in a dye bath and like going for it. Um, and I was asked to dye that a colorway I call koi pond, and every koi pond comes out different. So it's kind of like just like koi fish, it's going to come out the way it comes out, um, which is part of my process, I suppose. And I dyed 2 of them because I wasn't quite sure whether she would like one or the other. It was just the way this particular hank dyed up.
Right.
So the hank, I'm actually using it now. I kept it for myself because it was so good. Um, it ended up being quite a dirty color, but it's quite delicious in some ways as well. So
Right.
it's been sitting in my stash, my personal stash, for about 6 months, that one.
Can we
And
talk
I'm,
about that for just a second?
yeah, sure.
So, to me, the danger of dyeing yarn is that like I'm such a collector of yarn that I don't know if I would be able to part this much. How do you separate your personal stash from your business
In
stash?
a bag. I literally have this bag by my feet. So this is my bag of colors and colorways that I have salvaged for myself, but it is not allowed to get bigger than this bag. So
Are you
I
so
just had to say,
good? You're so disciplined, my God.
well, I had to be because it's already taking over the flat, and I'm on the 7th floor. I'm actually scared I'm going to be thrown off the balcony at some point, because it is literally taking over everywhere at the moment. And I just had to kind of like narrow it down. And I'm actually in the process of getting my head around a de-stash of lots of the other stuff I had, like the basic cotton and things like that I don't really use anymore. But I know somebody else who's a beginner might well want it. So
Have you become a yarn snob?
no, I don't think I have. Oh. Again, I feel seen. I don't think I have. I love hand dyed because I love the uniqueness of every hang or skein. Um, but I still work in cotton, so I'm doing a set of granny squares at the moment, which are going to be a pair of trainers.
Oh, that's so cute.
So I have like cotton for those kind of things, and I use what I need to use. There's some projects which I just think you don't need hand dyed for that. Just
Right.
yarn is fine. And I don't even mean bog standard or normal or what. Just yarn. Pick one that you like. If it's in your budget, it's good for you, and that's fine. And um, I do try and make my own hand dyed stuff accessible, as accessible as I can make it. I don't try and sell it like too pricey or whatever, because I do want people to enjoy. I think it's really beautiful, so I want people to enjoy it if they.
Well, I want to ask you about like a very exciting event that happening in your life. So you've been nominated for the British Knitting and Crochet Award.
Yes, how?
I mean, obviously, it's well deserved. So,
Oh my gosh! It was the most. It's amazing. It's kind of, yeah. It came from nowhere, really. I mean, last year, because it's nominated by people, just readers of the magazines. And last year I got a message from somebody saying, "Oh, I've nominated you," and I heard nothing further because I got maybe one nomination. I only started in 2020, in January, so I wasn't expecting anything. And even this year, I was kind of like, I was really surprised because nobody had messaged me, and I was just like, "Yeah, well, it's on, and okay, that's all good." And then I got this random phone call. And because they won't even email you at the beginning because it's all embargoed. Um, you must call this number, and I did. And Sam, the woman on the other end, was like, "You've been nominated and you're shortlisted. So you're one of the top 5." And I was just like, "What? Like how? How even?" So I'm super grateful to customers and but I also don't feel like. It's a funny one, actually. I suppose it's that imposter syndrome that everybody has a bit too, isn't it? Right. So I don't feel like I'm necessarily any more deserving than lots of other people. It's like a lucky break.
right.
But I also kind of feel like we have to be the kind of inclusivity and diversity we want to see. So if, we want to see more men knitting and crocheting and dyeing yarn and all of that sort of stuff, then we need to stand up and be there when those sorts of things happen. So I'm kind of trying to be, I suppose it's a weird one. Like I said, it's hard to be. I like to be humble. It's not. I don't want to really brag, but it's
Now,
kind of.
please brag. So, like, how can people vote for you? Is it still the voting is still open?
Yeah, voting's still on apparently. It goes through till about I think it's the 25th, 24th, something like that of September.
Okay.
You
So,
have to
how
be,
can one do that?
you have to be
How
in the
can
UK.
people vote for you?
You can jump onto my Instagram if you like. There's a link in my LinkedIn that'll take you straight to the voting, but you need to be UK based. So yeah, and yeah, I'm super grateful. I mean, it's lovely, and like I've said, I'm trying to be the inclusivity and diversity that we want to see. I think everybody has their place. You know, whether you've been here 10 minutes or 10 years, it doesn't mean that anybody's less or more good at what they're doing.
Well, I
But
want
it
to
is also,
ask you about that. So I noticed from your Instagram that you talk a lot about community over competition. And you actually created this 5-minute business hacks where you share your experience and like how to improve on your Instagram, how to do some marketing things. How like why is it important to you? Why do you feel like you need to build this community, and what advice would you give to like people who are thinking about starting in the business?
okay, so I'll answer the last bit first. So the first thing I'd say is do it. Just do it. Don't think about it anymore. Just jump on and get started, because the hardest bit is getting started. Um, and then learn as you go. Like the whole thing for me has been about, this is a learning curve and I'm still learning. But I guess it's part of the teacher in me, where if I find something out, I want to then share that with other people that might be interested. Like it interested me, so maybe it'll interest somebody else. And it's a kind of a bit of a fallacy, I suppose, to think that teachers always sort of know everything. I used to teach Japanese to 5-year-olds a very long time ago, and I literally learnt the Japanese I needed to teach in the lesson the night before. So it's just, you know, just learn the bit that you need to learn. And you're not an expert, although you're an expert at that bit for that moment for those people or for that audience, if you see what I mean.
That's
So
actually a very interesting concept. Yeah.
yeah, so I guess the 5-minute business hack thing for me is a bit about giving back in a way. But it's really just I've found this out, this works for me, it might work for you too. And it's like everything on Instagram. I feel like I've been thinking about this a lot actually lately. Instagram is a bit like a high street, like a shopping mall or a high street, where you walk around the shops and you don't necessarily go into every shop, but you also don't stand at the shop doors and go, oh, this is rubbish, and then walk away. And I don't understand really on Instagram why people feel the need to make comments and stuff that are like negative.
Negative.
Just scroll on, just walk on. Like,
Right.
so for me, it's like I'm putting out the stuff I want to put out. I don't really think about the numbers in terms of how many followers. I don't really think about what the people say about when I should post and how I should post and how many times a day I should post and what I should post. And I don't think about any of that. I post the stuff I want to post. And if you don't like it, you're welcome to walk on. The door's over there. Don't slam it on your way out. But you're welcome back anytime. I don't generally block people, but I will if I have to, if I absolutely have to, if there's hate and venom and whatever. I just don't have time for it. So you will be blocked. Every shopping street, every shopping centre has security. So when you got
That's
to,
yours.
yeah, absolutely. But I just feel like there's too much negative stuff, and why not? It's just a shopping mall, right? So why just go and find the stuff you want to find? And today you might not want my stuff. You'll go to the shop next door, and that's all good, because we're all in the same mall in a way. And if we're all in the same community, I just feel like, why not help each other out? You know, if I know how to do something, whatever that thing is, then I'll share it. I'll help somebody, or because
Right.
why not?
Do you
Other
get
people help.
inspired by other dyers?
Um, I do. I try. I don't. I'm a really firm believer about not copying. So I've actually had a message from a dyer that I've met recently, or it's actually, they're two sisters, Wiku Yarns. I think their Instagram is just Wiku. It might be Wiku Yarns. Anyway, I'll send you a message later and you can put it in the comments. They dyed an absolutely beautiful color that I saw recently called Blissful Beach. And I messaged them and said, oh my God, it's amazing. I'll be buying some. And they were like, what? Like, why would you just dye it yourself? And I'm like, no, because I won't dye. I don't need to dye your color. That's your color. And if you gave me the same colors as another dyer, we'd both come up with something different.
Right.
So it's just, yes, it's inspiring, but I kind of get inspired by my own things as well. Like I said, I love color. So if I see a combination I really like, then it goes in the memory bank and you kind of think, oh, okay, green and pink goes quite nicely together. That might be quite fun to do. There's actually a green and pink colorway coming quite soon, I think. And you know, this particular one that I saw of theirs was kind of a blue and a brown, which kind of Blissful Beach was a perfect name for it. It was just the most stunning blue, and it's bits of other people's dyeing that I kind of like, not necessarily a combination. So if I see a blue I really like, it's like, oh, that blue's lovely. But my process is possibly a little bit different to others. So I tend to only have, when I started, I had 7 dye colors and that was it. And I did everything by mixing colors. I have a few extra colors now because there's a couple of colors that I haven't been successful in mixing. You're getting a good gray, for example, you just can't. Magenta pink, you can't mix that.
Right.
Then something sort of more neon, like a neon peachy color or whatever, you just can't mix that.
Do you ever dream of colors? Do you ever like wake up in the morning and like that's what I have to do?
Yeah, sometimes. Generally, I don't know. Yeah, generally, I kind of, in my head, it's more about planning out the order I'm going to dye things in, because it kind of makes sense if I'm mixing up a massive batch of orange to then dye a bit of koi pond and a bit of autumnal and a bit of, because they all carry that orange through, if that makes sense. But it sort of depends on depends on so many things. It depends on, if I'm doing the tarot cards, for example, it depends on what card I've pulled out and where that card takes me in my head.
No, wait a second. I want to ask you about the tarot cards. Let's go a little bit more in depth about that. How did that become a thing?
Yeah, well, it did. I decided that, like I said earlier, I started with I had a Mystic 8 ball, and I just fancied the idea of turning over the Mystic 8 ball, and whatever it said, that's what I would dye. And it was kind of because the names weren't color related, it gave me a freedom to dye whatever I fancied. When I did those. So when the color Absolutely comes out, then it was just like, right, Absolutely is all about every color there is, or maybe that's just yellow and pink, or whatever it happens to be. And then once I got to about halfway through, I suppose about 13 of the Mystic 8 balls, I think I've still got a handful of them to do. There's 20 in all, and I think I only got to 13, but I got to that stage and it was kind of like, okay, the Mystic 8 ball's I'm not feeling it at the moment, so I'm just going to put that aside for a bit. Collection's still there, and I'll dye into that collection at some point in the future. This was also part of last year's pandemic, so it's just like, there were days where I was just like, I'm not dyeing anything, I can't face any of it right now. I'm just going to go and crochet or knit. And then the tarot cards came out of that, really. I suppose I kind of wanted, I was looking for something that would give me a collection of yarns, but I also had in my head, I wanted to make some patterns that had a kind of connection through them. Like you could connect different cards almost, or different colors, and they'd all still kind of go together. So that's why I chose the kind of yarn, the zebra yarn, which has the black and white stripes through it. So the black kind of holds the whole collection together, if you like. And then whatever I dye onto it, it kind of works because of the black running through. And a couple of people have made patterns now. There's a few more coming. And I've just let people, like customers, have sort of said, oh, I want this yarn and I'm going to make some patterns. It's like, tell me when you've got them and I'll pump them out as well. And
do you like this like collaborations with the designers?
I love it. It's life. I do quite, again, it's that community over competition thing. So I actually work with working with 2 designers at the minute. I work with another Instagram pal who Bex. She is the Pigeon's Nest, and she she does amazing portraits. She does this thing called pigeon portraits, where they're sort of portraits of pop stars or figures from history, but done in yarn. So she'll have a yarn wig and or whatever. And I sort of messaged her out of the blue and just said, I want you to take some of my tarot colors and just do whatever you fancy with them. And she was like, oh my God, I've been wanting to message you because I've been wanting to do exactly that. So it was like, okay, let's become friends. So she's like my sister from another mister now, and I talk to her sort of every week. The kids know me, her kids know me by name, and if I'm on a Zoom call or whatever, they're like, oh, Kitey.
I actually want to ask you about that. So one of the videos you referred to your wife Molly, work wife Molly.
Oh, work wife, yeah.
Is that like how you see, like this is how you see a lot of people that you become good friends with on Instagram,
Yeah.
like they are your family members?
Yeah, they're family. Molly is a dyer. We met. Oh, when did we met? We met. I think we met through Indie Roller, in fact. And yeah, she's a dyer that was working in there. She was working in. She used to live in West London. She now lives in Canada, which was very sad when Mole left. But yes, I was in East London, and we'd always talked to each other about we should do something sort of cross London. We were going to do like a collaboration around the underground or whatever, and it never kind of came to pass because she moved to Canada. We're still talking about collaborations and doing stuff in the future, because she's just like, again, she's not my sister, she's more like my work wife, Molly. So we help each other out. Like if I'm having a crap day, you know, I can get on the DM, or we'll do a Zoom call, and she does the same, and we talk through problems that we're having, problem customers, like how are you going to deal with this particular bit of drama or whatever, because that happens.
Actually, I want to ask you about that. So
Oh,
I saw a couple episodes where you showed the map that you created to
mhm.
cheer you on.
Yep.
And I want you to tell my viewers about it because I found it like to be very inspirational. And I also was thinking that maybe I'm gonna borrow your idea and use the same for Fiberchats because I'm
Yeah,
interviewing people from like all over the world, you know. So
absolutely. You should totally do it. It was an actually an idea that came from somebody else, and I can't think who it came from. I just saw it randomly. So it's just a postcode map of the UK, and I started it last year because again, it was the pandemic, and you know, sales were slow. There were months where I sold nothing, and you just kind of needed something to give you a boost, you know, on those days where it's just all a bit like, oh, why am I bothering? Like no one's seeing this stuff. And but actually what it does is it gives you the opportunity to look back and go, actually people are seeing it, people like it. I don't use it to compare myself with anybody else. This is just for me. I'm happy to share what I'm doing, but it's more about, you know, this was last year, and then I've got one for this year. So I've started another one. And funnily enough, just the other day, maybe 2 days ago, I did one for the US. And because
I have Massachusetts missing there. Maybe it's time I place an order.
yeah, well, you know, I'm not sure about Massachusetts. Yeah, Massachusetts not there at the moment. Yeah, so I knew I had customers in the US. I've sent some stuff off there before, and I had a list of them, and so I thought, no, I actually need to do a map and just to see, like, and it was crazy because I didn't realize I'd had as many customers, but in a way, it's like gratitude. It's being thankful and gratitude for your customers, because it's acknowledging all of them, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So So for me, it's that. And then I've actually got another one, which I'm going to do is become a bit map crazy, but there's the world, and then I'll have the universe, and I'll take over all of the solar system and so on. But yeah, it's just a nice way of giving yourself a boost. So every month I just sit and spend, an hour just having a look at what have I sold into anywhere new. And it's just taking a moment to be thankful for the people who are supporting me.
Right. And do you find that, I mean, I'm going through this all the time, and some of my friends as well. Like, there are days when I feel like it's so great of what I'm doing, and then there are days when I'm like, why am I even bothering? Like, nobody sees it, and nobody cares, and people are sick and tired of me talking about the same thing, you know? So you,
Oh, we're not.
it's like, right. And then
Yeah.
I was actually, when I was just starting the Fiberchats, I was talking to Steven Weber, who ended up being one of my Fiberchat guests. And I was like, Steven, like, tell me the truth. With all my like imperfect English and everything, is that part of the charm, or just like, why am I even doing that, right? And he was
Totally
like,
part of the
it's
charm.
absolutely part of the charm. So it's like,
Absolutely.
right, and it's like it felt so good to have this like boost from some friends that I've met on Instagram, and I feel like without that community, without that support of people that I've met on Instagram, on Facebook, like on social media, like
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. I
Yeah.
wouldn't have the confidence to do what I'm doing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
And
and also like I feel
oh,
like knowing that they're going through the same exact doubts, knowing like I'm talking with like very famous designers and like successful dyers, right? I mean, you got British award for knitting and crochet, and you have moments of self-doubt, so it's like it
yeah.
sort of makes it seem like we're all human and normal,
I
and
think
it's
we
part of the
are.
thing.
I think everybody is the same, and anyone who doesn't acknowledge that is being um, slightly disingenuous. I think everybody feels that. We're all making it up as we go along. As a parent,
Right.
as a teacher. I mean, I was a deputy head at one point. Most days I was making it up as I go along, because it's like, well, how do you do this job? And you do it by learning from other people and stuff like that. So if you don't share your experiences, then how are other people going to learn in a way? And how are we going to take it forward? It's not that I have to become the best ever um, to be successful. I feel like if I can empower other people to also be their best, then I've been successful at that. You know what I mean? And if
Right.
I feel like there's, as I said right at the beginning, I said about gatekeepers, and there's so much of that gatekeeper stuff going on all the time in everything. There's experts for this, that, and the other, and you just think, actually, no, everybody can, anyone can do this. Everybody can have a go if they fancy. And as I said a minute ago, you give the same colors to two different people and they'll come up with, I could give it to 10 different people and they would all come up with something different. And,
Right.
and that's, 10 yarn dyers in a room, all with blue and the same thing of yarn, we're going to come up with something different. So, because it's about your creativity and it's about how you're applying your process and whatever. And I just think, yeah, it's part of the human experience. That sounds so worthy, but like, it's part of the human experience to kind of learn and grow and share, and we're better when we do that together in a way. So for me, it comes back to that community over competition thing. I'm not competing with anyone because I don't need to, and
Right.
um, and I think the comparison thing is such a thief of the comparison is a thief of joy. Like, it just takes away all the fun stuff, and there's so much in the world anyway. So let's just kind of, just move past that in a
Okay,
way.
I want to ask you one thing. So you
Go
do
for it.
this thing, and I wonder if you've been doing it recently because you're preparing for that yarn show on Saturday, right? Um, where you dance while you twist the yarn.
Again, I feel seen. Yes, I do that all the time because I hand twist. So um, mostly, yeah, mostly the music will go on and it just makes it a bit more fun. I mean, I put those things on Instagram because it's for me, it's about, I'm trying to show up authentically on Instagram. It's really hard because it's kind of, it's curated, isn't it? So people only see what you want them to see. Um, but that's my normal day. There's one of those videos, I'm in a sarong. I hadn't bothered doing my hair. I mean, the picture you posted of me in my shawl for Men in Shawls had mad lockdown hair and whatever. And because I'm just posting what I found. It was part of where we were in 2020, and I just felt like I don't need to curate it. I'm not embarrassed by myself, even though my son's mortified by me, and
Well,
that's
isn't it the
fine.
parents' job to mortify their children?
I've said that to him more than once. If I'm not mortifying you, I haven't done my job properly. So
You know, my son came home and he was like, "My God, parents nowadays, they're like influencers on Instagram,
I
YouTubers.
know
Where did they go wrong?"
it's so awful, but you're so right. He's mortified, but then I said to him the other day, like, I said, yeah, but there's my Instagram. And he went, how have you got 4,000 followers? And I was like, I don't actually know and I don't actually care, but like, you can stop. Like, you've got 1,000. So, you know, obviously that's us being silly. We're not, I don't really care about the numbers. There's as many unfollowers as followers
Oh, that's for
on
sure.
some posts. Yeah, if I post something about being gay or whatever, I'll lose followers. That's common. I
I
know
don't
lots of
even know why I'm gaining or losing followers, honestly. I've been playing the
Tony.
20,000 for like a month now. It goes a little over, then it goes a couple hundred under. It just like keeps
That's how it is, and I just that you could get so hung up on it, couldn't you? And again, that would just steal all the joy in what you're
right.
doing. I'm a firm believer in do what makes you happy, do what you love, and the people that are meant to come to that will come to it, and anyone else, like I said, you're in a shopping mall, scroll by. You don't have to be, and you're welcome not to be. I don't go into every shop, but then there's shops I do dip my toe in every now and again because why not? And
Well, if people want to tip their toes into your shop, on is Saturday the best time to visit?
yeah, I'll be doing an update. Probably, I tend to do an update just before a yarn show if I've got a yarn show on. I've actually got two this month, so I'm doing one this Saturday and this Saturday it's going live. I'll be live on Instagram on the Sunday for this one. This is Fiber Block Party. Um, Next week I'm doing Yorkshire Yarn Fest, and that's I believe that's Saturday, although I probably better check that because I haven't even looked. And I'm going to be madly dying to catch up from this weekend, but that's fine. And yeah, I've got Dyed to order stuff, so people. I have a rule where you won't miss out. Like if you jump on something, you see a color you like, I can make it happen for you. It might take a week or two to get um, the base in, but
Right.
I can make it happen. So yeah, if you fancy, Saturday's probably a good day because the shop will be as stocked as it's likely to be for a little while because I've been busy.
Oh, that's
So,
great. Well, I can't wait to see what you're gonna come up with. And hopefully you're gonna post some dancing videos so we can,
I will
join the party.
I'll make a point of doing one probably tomorrow. I've got some skeins that actually need they're drying at the minute, so I'll jump on and do. In fact, there's a colorway I call K-pop, which is based on Blackpink, the band. So I will maybe put a Blackpink song on and do a little bit of skeining for that one.
That sounds so much
You can
fun.
laugh at that.
Well, I'm so glad you were a guest on my Fiberchats today. Thank you so very much. And
It's
well,
been an absolute joy.
I'll
It's
put
been
all
a
the information about your Instagram and the shop in the description of this video. And hopefully people will visit you on Saturday or place a custom order if they don't find what they want.
Perfect. And yeah, and good luck with all of your fiber chats going forward. Like I've loved them. I've done the last sort of couple of weeks, I've been doing a massive binge watch because I was
Thank you
doing,
so much.
and I know literally I sat one day, I was crocheting away and I sat there and I watched 6 in a row and then realized that actually I hadn't put the washing out and there were things I really needed to go and do. So because I was just so engrossed and I mean, they've been brilliant. So thank you for including me and
Thank you.
good luck for the future. I hope they go amazing,
Thank you. Thank you.